So, how much money do you suppose they had? I don't know exactly how much they had. They had more than the other kids in the neighborhood. But they didn't have, in fact, Rome itself did not have Bill Gates' wealth. So when we see this fantastic wealth of imperial Rome, we have to look at ourselves. We are the richest people that ever existed. My God, we're fabulously wealthy people. I live like a king. Part of that is choice, and part of that is the incredible wealth generated in the wake of the technology era, and of which I participated and drank fully from that cup. The greed thing is a bit of a diversion for our destiny, however. Our destiny lies with reason. We've learned to put it in our machines. And that has made for a rich society with great companies. Don't you think there should be more, though? Don't you want more? Isn't the reason, let me ask you this, what is it that attracts you to Agile? Why are you in this room and paying money to talk about efficiency and stuff like that? I mean, isn't there a spiritual dimension to this program? There has been for me. My priest was Dennis Ritchie and Brian Kernighan. They taught me how to think and how to create. And that's something we're not paying attention to. We are not paying attention to the effect of being a programmer on the person programming. The effects are profound. Weren't they profound for you? When you went, oh, yes, and you did some programming? And you went, oh, yeah. It was like, for me, wow, I cried and screamed and fainted. And I spent my last amount of credit on my credit card to buy a computer, and got a huge fight with my wife, and I sold my business. I did all sorts of crazy things because that felt so good to finally encounter reasonableness in all its glory. And they call us nerds, unsocial. I'm sorry, we are the lords and ladies of logic, the bringers of light to the world. And that's a simple fact. And when I go into my computer and you glance at your phone, you're talking to someone that you never would have talked to in this way at this time, ever, without the light of technology to show you the way. And I have friends on Facebook that I would never have made without Facebook. And for me, a chat and a text window is as rich as a poem. Anything I take the trouble to type is richer than the ease of my blathering mouth. Let's look for a second at the greatness of what we've created. Just the greatness. Let's leave the magnificence out. TCP/IP. Pretty good. Well done, you. Well done, Silicon Valley. Well done, Austin, Microsoft, Redmond, Seattle, Boston. Well done, Japan. Well done. TCP/IP. And what is it exactly? It's the projection of our unconscious dream of what it could be like to live, to always be connected to everybody. And the connection never fails. It always works. And it gets faster and faster and cheaper. And I'm with more and more people all the time. There's a billion of us on Facebook talking to each other. Whoa! I'm going to cry and scream and faint right now. Because I'm not the boy I started out. I have a little bit more to me now. I'm willing to cry and scream and faint at something as orgiastic as that. As the ability to pummel love into the wires. And to love 10 times as many people. And to get access to their giftedness as if it were my own gifts. That's what TCP/IP is. It's the unconscious projection of our dreams. And yet those people that don't like people put that together. TCP/IP. What happens when that becomes a full release? It's right now just a point release. The full release is when we use it to be intimate. But we're not really very good at that. We need some code for that. We need something that shows you how to deal with other people. We need a different revolution that's happening, and it's beginning with you, with Agile. Now, the reason I paid my own dime down here and came to give this talk, number one, it's a great honor to speak to people who have achieved the kind of things you've achieved. Number two, you're my people. I love you. We're marching to the same chord, or dancing, maybe it's better. When we're on our game, we're dancing. And number three is because it's my duty to tell you this idea, that it's time that we became coherent about what we're doing. Agile is incoherent. It takes advantage of none of the beautiful things we've created about software. It's not versionable, it's not compatible, it doesn't have an open interface, it's not really adoptable, and yet it has this kernel of beauty. So it's kind of like what Agile, Lean, and then the various engineered cultures are like most. They're like weighing word processors. Things that are going to go away when the real McCoy hits. When we get a common platform for cultural innovation. That's the idea I bring. What time is it? Oh, we got time. All right, so I got to show you something that like a clown pants here. I'll pull out a horn. Okay, so I bought this phone a couple of years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, for around $100. It's kind of a rip-off. It's an AT&T phone. It's Samsung made. It's a rip-off of the BlackBerry. Right, little keys there and everything. I thought, well, I need keys, you know. So I bought that as $100. When you turn this thing on, oh, it has some power. I don't use it. When you turn it on, it presents you with 9 icons for various functions. 9. You can do 9 different things with this little gizmo. I was pretty impressed with that. There they are, 9 icons. I can go to a web that they've limited, which I always thought, why bother limiting the web? I never could figure it out. But yeah, I can do messaging that was non-standard and stuff like that. I had 9 functions. And this was made turnkey by AT&T. They were working with Samsung. Then, a couple of years ago, I bought this little guy, which is an iPhone derivative. It's an Android phone, but it's an iPhone ripoff, basically. So thank you, Steve. But I still won't give you my money. I will give you my love, but no. My love is more valuable. So this thing, how many functions? What's the latest count? 500,000. Yeah, it's the same hardware as this. They were both $100. I mean, the only difference really in the hardware is this threw out the keyboard and added touchscreen. So they probably have the same level of processing capability, same level of RAM. So the intention was different. The design was different. And a common platform is the difference between 9 broken apps and 500,000 functions. And yet we have no platform for cultural innovation. But we do. We have the first stab at it. It's called the core protocols. And you build things on top of them. You know, they kind of go nowhere. They're like an abstract thing. They have very beautiful functions, though. Most importantly, they embody the hacker ethos. They're suspicious of authority. In fact, if you adopt the core protocols in some company you work for or something, that's going to be really interesting how your boss is going to play that. But anyway, we'll see as time goes on. I suspect it'll be rather like labor unions eventually that will be going, no, this is how we do things. But most bosses are sufficiently greedy that they're buying into Agile and stuff like that. They want this damn software. Give me the software. They don't know how you get it. They don't care how you get it, really. They will be annoyed, They're already annoyed that you want to work at home and stuff like that. But they will continue to be further annoyed as the thing goes on. And they will continue to be more and more your slave. But they need the software. Everybody needs the software. Everybody wants the software. What they don't get is that the software is all about them. That's what's next. The new platform will be one that we run in our minds. We're connected together. We're running the same thing. We get to that state of shared vision. We can get a team to that state every time using a few simple protocols. Designing a culture. That's what gave Athens its Athenianness, its greatness. That's why we refer to it as the golden era. And every time in history that we've wanted to get golden, we've turned to Athens. In the Renaissance, they turned to Athens. Can you imagine being the guy who stumbled into the books of Athens? Holy shit! Look at this! They knew so much more than we know. They were so much more beautiful and smarter. Holy God, that was a good day. That was such a good day, it launched Western civilization to something that is climaxing now. I started with the hippies, but the hippies are just children of that. I mean, it goes back quite a ways. It goes back to the Renaissance, and especially it goes to the Enlightenment, which is the Enlightenment. Let's go look at Athens again. Boom! Civilization takes off again. Then science. Newton, Locke, Jefferson, Franklin, and Washington. Good times. Good men. Great men. I would say what Jefferson said of the founding fathers in convention, which he didn't get to go to the convention where they created the Constitution because he was ambassador to France. But when he heard who was there, he goes, that isn't a bunch of men. Those are gods convening. That's what that was like. Now, it wasn't because they're better than us, or Athens kicks Santa Clara's geography's ass. Not really. It's because they had a culture that got behind its citizens, and the citizens got behind each other. And that's kind of what we're missing. And the more you want to ship great software, the more you're going to see that software won't let you until you become a paragon of reason. And then you can need only express yourself. That's what attracted me to software. First it was the code, then it was the reasoning that I applied to the teams. That when I reasoned, I could create little structures and so on that they could get infinitely better. Infinitely better. Greatness is a zero-time event. It's easier and cheaper than mediocrity. So whenever you're running late or your product is too full-featured, it's because you're not ambitious enough. You have to be more ambitious. And that's what software demands of you. And as the software keeps whipping the asses of the programmers, the millions of programmers, it keeps kicking them around and says, I'll unlock my treasure just as soon as you get a little bit more reasonable. That's the bounce back effect of software is what I call it. And that's what's making Agile. And that's what's making greatness. That's what's going to make the era of magnificence, which is only 10 or 20 years off if you do your jobs. But we have to go, boom, okay, let's start expressing practices in a type of code. Let's start versioning them. Let's start disclosing personal APIs. And it's not that I want people to run like automations. That's the first thing everybody goes, oh, you're going to make us into robots. Oh yeah, that would be my goal, right? It's to reduce your complexity. interface into that could be more reasonable. Right? For example, I have a protocol I use that has me dealing with my intuition more effectively. One of the biggest steps in the core protocols is a simple creation of a four fields to describe the emotional state of a person: mad, sad, glad, and afraid. Right? So disclosing your emotion with words becomes easier. It has built-in protections. Once we're all committed to a certain set of commitments, a certain set of practices, then we can be held accountable. Not before. You go, you're going to ship this on June 5th, and I'm going to hold you accountable. Oh, wait, how's that work? I didn't pick June 5th. You can't hold me accountable. Accountability works when I say what I'm going to do, and then you can help me do it by holding me accountable to my words, not to your words. So if we're mutually accountable to grand and beautiful goals such as I will disclose what I know, want, and feel, not really very radical things, but sound. Once we're all committed to that, when we don't do that, we get to protocol check each other. That's the error handling. You're in a network, and the network corrects deviations. So it's the error handling that really is the hacker ethos. It's the spirit of freedom, right? Like not just the error handling, but some of the certain protocols. I can check out anytime I want. I don't have to. In fact, I'm prohibited from telling people why. I can check out. I taught that to my kids, my kind of second crop of kids, and they grew up in a world where they were very facile with their four feelings, and they were aware that they could check out when Dad went south, which Dad does. You know, I'm not really worried about the bad guys. I'm living with them. They're in me. So all I gotta do is write code that makes people powerful enough to stop me from being a jerk, which I will tend to do if left to my own devices, because I am human. So there ain't no bad guys. There's only us, and we got to write code that will protect our children from us. And when I taught my daughter checkout, she used that on me. To this day, she's 18. She still will use that on me when I start giving her grief. And I hate it as much now as I hated it the first time. But I have to respect it because she can tell when she's about to get abused, or when she's about to abuse me. Once she checks out, she's protected. She's inviolate. I can never take that back once I've empowered her that way. Well, how do you take that back? No, you can't check out anymore? I mean, we've all taken the Hippocratic Oath. I will preach loudest about that which I do most. That's the role of coaches, by the way. You all take the Hippocratic Oath. When we have a common platform for cultural innovation, think of the millions, maybe the tens of great ideas you've had. If only there was a place to plug them in. You have to assume that people are on a virtuous path to care about a good idea. And even though we may have intentions to be on a virtuous path, I think the code guys can do better than 10 Commandments. The hit rate on 10 Commandments has not been good. Right? And in a new world, we can support each other more lovingly and effectively than in the old world. More reasonably. Intention check is another protocol. I'm sorry, I don't really see how what you're saying is going to yield a good result. Can you explain that to me? What's your intention? First time I used this woman, I said, tell me what your intention is. She goes, intention? I don't have any intention. I was like, I know. Life without intention is not human. That's what thinking is. It's intention. So, we're all creating a world whether we admit it or not. And here's how we do it. We have certain beliefs. We act on those beliefs, and they become a part of the world. other people will act in relation to them. Everything we do is building a world. What? I'm going to do an intention check. What's your intention? What's your intention? Is it to build the world of magnificence, of general greatness, abundance? The 10x world of teams that we discussed, the world where there's a common platform for our intellectual output? Are you going to build a magnificent world, or are you okay with the ghetto you're in? Because it's time to shift. And that's that chord. Bang! You hear it? Do you feel it? Come dance with me. Thank you. So rather than make everybody late for everything, go ahead and break up. I'm going to be around. I'm going to go hang out in the other room. And that's better for questions and stuff.
Thank you so
Fantastic.
much, Jim.
You're quite welcome. It's my pleasure.
Thank you, Jim. Oh, Jim McCarthy.